coming to get you, Barbara.
Here's some money. Go see a Star War.
But I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd.
Welcome back to Long Walk Talks. My name is David Hensley. I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions, and I am joined today, as always, by my two co-hosts, Stan Wilson Lee.
Which level of the dream am I in?
And Chris Wilson Barnes.
I think it's 1, so this will only take a week to do.
Oh, man, yeah, strap in.
Isn't a week an hour? The first level is an hour, right?
No, first
Second level is a week.
No.
Let's not confuse ourselves right off the bat. There's plenty of time for that.
It was weeks, months, then decade.
What? Shit, I don't even remember now, and it's only been a few nights since I watched it.
The only thing I'm shaky on is level 2. Level 1 was a week, level 3 was a decade.
Yeah, that's right, because Yusuf's formula was different than the one they normally use. Time they were under for longer. That's right. That's great. In case you haven't figured it out yet, we are continuing our Christopher Nolan filmography discussion by discussing the 2010 film Inception.
Can't wake up.
Okay.
Is that the subtitle? Is that the parenthetical
I mean, if there's
title?
any movie that should have used that song.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so to kick off our discussion, I want to ask... is this sort of controlled lucid dreaming, like the shared lucid dreaming experience as it's presented in the film, something that you would want to partake in? Stan, what do you think?
I've had moments, I mean, not as intense, but I've had moments of lucid dreaming, which I enjoyed tremendously. But then there's other moments of lucid dreaming that I don't enjoy, like those moments when you think you're trapped under your covers and you can't get out and there's no way you can move, the sleep paralysis type lucid dreaming. That's not fun. But then there's the lucid dreaming where you think you're a secret agent and you have a secret agent lady that you happen to meet 10 years later, and it's that's the same girl that was in my dream, and it goes on from there, and you have that recurring dream every 10 years or so. So
where do you go, Stan?
Where do I
what
go?
secrets do you hold? But the kind of group dreaming that they do throughout the movie.
Sure, why not? Yeah, I would, because you know how much I love groups. So it's like,
Oh, you love groups.
I love groups
and being part of them.
And
the more the better.
The more the better.
You say.
But yeah, in this situation, it's not the same as a regular social function. So yeah, it's being asleep with a bunch of people. So and sharing.
You've done that plenty of times.
I've done that plenty of times, and sometimes I'm the only one asleep, but that's okay. But it's like to share the dream and to have the exploration and to be aware of surrounding. See, the thing is with this is that with Inception is that they're all aware and they're all physically connected to what's happening, and they and it's been set up to where they can control the situations or be at least partake full-heartedly into situations.
Sort of. They're not totally in control.
They're not totally in control.
As they come to
because of
find out, yeah.
But the idea to be in that kind of situation, I think that would be a blast, especially depending on the dream, though.
Yeah, Chris, what do you think?
Oh God, no.
No,
no, and it's for one main reason. I don't think I would like it because actually. The way I do dream, I know that, but I've told you plenty of times before, I barely remember anything I dream about. I mostly just black out, and as I'm waking up, I remember I feel the last bits of those dreams happening. And I realized something based on stuff I've read. I may not have a visual imagination. Like there are people like that. And I realize when I think about stuff and I have an imagination about it, I don't really see a lot of pictures in my head. Which may be why what dreams I do remember, I can remember things about them as like my brain is telling me what's happening, but I don't ever have a picture of what I'm doing.
interesting.
So I don't know how well I do in a full-blown lucid dream where I would be able to see everything.
Huh. I did not know that about you.
I didn't really either. It's kind of a conclusion I came to. I don't think I had, well, because when I think about stuff, I don't really visualize it.
Huh. Well then, yeah, I'm on the fence with this one because part of me would like to say yes, I'd love to, but the whole explanation that this dream state works because of a shared collective subconscious also like terrifies the shit out of me.
It should also, because if there's anything from your subconscious that's gonna poke through.
Oh yeah, like I have very vivid dreams.
You've told me about your nightmares before.
I have very vivid nightmares too. The idea of something from my subconscious poking through into a shared experience,
slamming through like a freight train.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a freight, that would be.
I'd be
Not cool.
afraid that my friends or the group that I'm sharing this dream with would find out things about me, or I would find out things about them that would just make it weird.
And I think I have a thing with this because, you know, I'm the only third of this trio that is a valid when you
Be very careful with your next words.
partaker in the herbs. So it's like the idea that I'm going to be in an even deeper dream state or dreamscape, you know, that does, and I'm not sure if I have a visual imagine and have partook in my dreams, but the idea that to be enhanced and to be actually able to physically interact with the dreams, I think that would just be another step up in my, you know, partaking of the altered consciousness, you know. So
as I took it as I was watching the movie, I think for the most part, since you are in fact lucid and conscious inside someone else's dream, most of it would still be under lock and key if you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But the very, very anything that's very deep-seated, a deep-seated strong emotion that you feel about a past or tragic event, resulting in, say, I don't know, someone becoming the embodiment of guilt.
Yeah.
right,
And I feel like to
depending
some
on who you take in with you, you know.
Yeah, and to some extent, I mean, most people, or at least most people that I know, are going to take in some deeply seated baggage with them into this. It's interesting that the movie portrays Cobb as being the only one. And yeah, like, obviously he has a dark and troubled past, to borrow an old cliche, but I find it interesting that he is really the only one bringing that sort of baggage into this shared subconsciousness with them.
You know, Tom Hardy's character complains about Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character having no imagination, but that seems to be the work in his favor.
Yeah.
In order to do that work properly.
Yeah, he's able to disassociate himself from you know the awful parts.
He could have something horrible, but he's got it under enough lock and key that it's not going to bleed through.
Well, and I also don't think it's right to say that his character, Arthur, has no imagination, considering what Arthur goes through to get that second kick.
Oh yeah, no, it's. I mean, it's just Tom Hardy's character taking a dig at him.
Yeah.
It's not true.
Because Arthur is definitely an engineer and
Arthur
definitely an architect of his stuff.
Yeah, engineers have imaginations. They're just more structured than most other people's.
Yeah, the whole sequence of him having to tie everyone together and then push them down the hallway while floating through the air is my favorite part of the movie. Like everything with Arthur on level 2.
Not to mention to induce gravity by strapping them to an elevator and shooting the elevator up.
Exactly. All the geometry that's involved in that formation, you know, it's like, okay, I have to put them this way. I have to use this particular, you know, go in this direction to get the, you know, and to where to set the charges so it does exactly what it needs to do. You know, it's like, yeah, I have the same reaction to the JGL's character in that, and it, yeah.
So should we summarize the movie briefly?
Yeah, I mean, we could, but also, good luck.
Oh, I can. It's a heist movie, but you steal thoughts instead of anything tangible.
Or it's a heist movie where you put stuff back, or put something in the safe.
That's a reverse heist movie, yes.
Yeah, it's a reverse heist movie.
Basically, you first learn, oh, this is a heist, but it's inside the mind. But then you learn you got to break into prison instead.
Yeah, you have to you implant thoughts into the dreamers,
incept them.
or incept them.
For any listeners who have not seen this movie, which, why are you listening to the podcast? What are we, 10 minutes in? Yeah, we are right at 10 minutes into the podcast. If you're listening having never seen Inception, the film is about a group of thieves, but I have a weird time calling them that because...
No. It's kind of that.
And the lead character, Cobb, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, specializes in breaking into people's minds through their dreams.
Rogue therapists.
Yeah, rogue therapists, stealing information from their subconscious, basically corporate espionage, and then selling that information. And he is hired by kind of a shady billionaire businessman to do the exact opposite, which is to break into somebody's mind through their subconscious and implant an idea.
Which is how they let you still root for the characters, because the idea is the guy that they were trying to steal his information was an energy broker. It was a big energy owned an energy concern in Japan, and they failed. But what he wants to do is and he wanted to incept the people in charge of basically what is the world's biggest energy broker, to convince them to break up the monopoly that they basically have. Otherwise, it's going to be bad for everybody.
So Saito says. Now,
no, I honestly agree with him, because people controlling at least half of the world's energy. He's right. Now, again, you have to take him at his word, but throughout the movie, he kind of proves himself to be a stand-up guy.
Yeah,
he does. Yeah.
So I'm willing to believe that.
By the time he's injured,
we're talking freely about spoilers. By the time he gets shot, we've come to see what that he's actually a pretty good guy. And so I'm not disagreeing with that point, but I want to say that I often, complain about things on this podcast that I hate. I love this movie. This is one of my favorite movies.
Agreed.
And one of Nolan's best. However, under the harsh light of scrutiny, a lot of the actions that the characters take in this movie
are questionable.
None of these
morally
people
questionable at best.
None of these people are good. And the thing they're doing at its most basic is ethically dubious at best.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of points in the film where at least one character says that to Cobb, or to because Tom Hardy's character does, Arthur, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, Elliot Page's character, they all have moments, and then turns out Elliot Page goes into the deepest part to see how deep that dubious
and ends up accidentally playing the best therapist.
Exactly.
And on top of that, where was I going with this? Oh shit.
That's a very good question.
I mean, okay.
Should we go inside?
No, I got it.
That's a great idea.
The military, like this movie also tells you, this was developed by the military for what they say was to basically join minds and combat and do like combat exercises inside them. I don't believe that for a second. If it was developed by the military, they wouldn't just waste it on combat.
Well, that's why Michael
Caine's
character left.
This is how you topple governments.
Right. But I absolutely believe that the government would, the U.S. military would sink conservatively millions, possibly billions of dollars into a project like this.
MK Ultra.
Yeah, exactly. It's the ultimate MK Ultra because...
No, I'm saying they did. It's just like, there's no way it just stopped at combat training.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm sure that's how it... that was the impetus behind it.
Sure.
I like how the movie goes to great lengths to talk about the special formula that they need, and how, the amount of time that they're under is influenced by this formula and everything. There is no discussion given whatsoever to what actually links all of their minds together.
That just works.
Yeah, it's just completely hand-waved.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure it would have. The movie's already 2 hours and 35 minutes. Taking an extra 5 minutes to explain what it is that links their brains and their consciousness together would have just added more minutes onto the movie. But
to say nothing of the fact that if you've ever talked to or listened to an anesthesiologist talk about putting someone under, you have to be so delicate about it.
Right.
That's how Michael Jackson died. He was just recreationally taking propofol. It was basically an anesthetic.
Yeah.
To help him sleep. And he overdosed accidentally and didn't wake up anymore.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be super careful based on on a person's body type and just who each individual person, that if you fuck it up, they're dead.
All right, well, we're going to move on to our second topic of discussion, which is throughout the movie, we have it explained that everybody who goes into this dream state, for whatever reason, all of them have what they call a totem. And this is an item that they keep on their person that helps them differentiate whether they are awake in the real world or still in the dream world. So for Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Cobb, it's his dead wife's metal top. Mm-hmm. Which he spins, and if it falls over, he knows he's in the real world. If it keeps spinning, he's still in the dream world. Ariadne's, it's hard to tell exactly what it was, but it was like a pawn, wasn't it, from a chessboard?
Yeah, that's right.
She crafts a chess piece.
And Arthur's is a loaded die. So my question is, Stan, what would your totem be?
Wow. Not sure. What do I play with?
Oh my God! You've had 48 hours.
I didn't bring up. I really don't know. Probably, it has to be something that can.
Don't say play with.
That has some sort of indication that it's doing something to where, oh, okay, it did that, so I'm still in the dream, or it did that. I am in the real world now. So I'm not sure what. Okay,
I have one for you. It's your cell phone. If you're holding it in both hands and typing with one of your index fingers,
I'm awake.
You're awake and in the real world. But if you're holding it with one hand and typing with your thumb like normal people, you're in the dream.
Okay, we can do that.
Chris, what about you? What would your totem be?
Mine would honestly be like Cobb's. It would be something simple. It would be either like a quarter or like a token. I have a token collection. Mm-hmm. I would keep a token with me because there's several that I have that are pretty unique, and I would, be able to guess it by sight, and then I would also just spin it. And like Cobb, if it doesn't fall over, then we got a problem.
Right. I have two potentials that I had a hard time picking between. One of them, thanks to my my growing love for D&D over the last few years, would be a D20. And the other one would be like a Zippo lighter, just to add a flair of unique.
Okay.
Yeah. Stan, did you actually have time to think of anything else?
I love quarters so much. I use quarters to make major decisions in my life. So it's like I probably have a quarter, and if it, I ask it a question, and however it lands tells me where I'm at. So. I'm
going to spend the rest of this podcast trying to think of a better totem for you.
I like the cell phone.
I thought of the token because that's personal. I'm trying to think because there, you always have those things in your life, whether it's like a pen or something that it doesn't work exactly like it should anymore, but you know how it works because you've used it for. I'm trying to think of something like that,
right?
And you would know if it worked perfectly the first time. This is a dream.
How about that filing cabinet you kept in the back of your car for 6 years?
What about it?
Would that be your totem?
If it's still in my car.
If it's still in the back of your car, yeah.
Because I have taken it out. So
thank God for that. All right.
But don't I need to put it back in if I'm good?
We're getting extremely personal. Some of our listeners have no idea who we are, in real life. But yours is going to be a half-drunk Starbucks coffee cup that you forgot to throw away.
And if it's drunk,
if it's all gone, you are 100% still in a dream. If it's cold and has been sitting there for several hours.
That could
beer.
be.
If you hand him a beer and he can down it in one go.
Without getting hammered.
Right.
Yeah. There we go.
I can do that now, though.
Over how long a time?
I can do that now. No.
All right. So our next topic of discussion isn't
Those
so
are pretty
much
good, though.
a topic as it is just a stray observation that I wrote down, which is I want the entirety of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's wardrobe in this movie.
It is a great wardrobe.
It is. I love it.
I want to say they're Boss. The brand is Boss is where it is. It might be Calvin Klein, but it could very well be Hugo Boss stuff, or it could be oh my God, I can't remember the Zegna, the Italian brand, but they look like Hugo Boss stuff.
Chris, did you have any thoughts?
I mean, if you want to see men in suits doing interesting things, I mean, a Nolan movie is the place to go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
it's
I
true.
love the fact that Arthur, JGL's character, is basically costumed as Christopher Nolan, who notoriously wears like 3-piece suits to set.
You're right.
Except the difference is that people around JGL in this movie get to sit down, unlike people on Christopher Nolan sets.
Oh, really? Is that a thing?
Have you never heard about the whole no sitting?
If you're not in the scene and you're blocked to sit.
Well, I mean, obviously, if you're blocked to sit, if you're on camera, yes, you can sit. But like, apparently, Nolan thinks that if you're sitting while you're on a set, you're not working. You know.
Oh, he's one of those people.
Yes, he is. He doesn't
Motherfucker.
allow chairs on his sets.
people complain
Does
about
he not
Christian
understand
Bale.
there are also people with disabilities who can't stand up for 10
Right.
hours a day?
Right. Yeah. No.
No wonder Christian Bale is as pissed off as he is.
Just a real quick aside story. This came out in summer of 2010, shortly after my birthday. I turned, how old was I that year? I was 24, and me and my friend,
Subtract 11.
me and my friend Brian had gone to see Inception. And for my birthday, somebody had bought me a bottle of absinthe. So one hot night in July, we decided we were going to drink absinthe.
Go see Inception.
No, we got very drunk very quickly.
That'll
and
happen.
Started talking about how awesome Joseph Gordon-Levitt's wardrobe in the movie was.
So it was after the movie.
Yeah. And we decided in our drunken state, let's go and put on our suits. So we each went out and put on a 3-piece suit
And you had a
proceeded
fight.
to get more hammered. At which point, the girl I was dating at the time came over, having just gotten off work at around 1 o'clock in the morning, and looked at us and was like, "What in the hell are you two doing? It is 100 degrees outside." And we're like, "We want to be like Joseph Gordon-Levitt in Inception."
This reminds me of the bit in Patton Oswalt's talking about getting drunk and going seeing a movie on Christmas. A capital idea, old sport, vomit.
Yeah. Well, this story ends with my ex-girlfriend telling us that, well, she has to go get groceries now. And we're like, that's great. We'll go with you. So she had to drive our drunk asses to Walmart.
But you're in suits, though.
Yes. We are walking around Walmart in 3-piece suits, just wandering like children who are unattended.
And the other suits. And the Walmart suits.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not the weirdest thing there by far.
No, it's true.
But can we say how great JGL is?
We cannot.
But I'd like to say
yeah.
the cast is great.
Yeah, it is.
Over the whole cast, they're all really great. JGL though, I think this was the grown-up movie, the movie that made him grow up, you know.
Yeah.
And now he can do adult parts. You know?
Tom Hardy actually, it seemed like, got to have fun in this movie.
Tom Hardy had a lot of blast.
Which it seems like he doesn't always get to do, or didn't always get to do until he became Venom. And Elliot Page has the unenviable job of having to be the one to either explain a lot of exposition or have a lot of exposition.
She was basically the audience. Sorry, you're right. She was the audience surrogate. They were the audience surrogate.
Yeah. And pulls it off. I mean, it's absolutely believable just because, well, we'll talk about this. This is one of our later topics. But yeah, you're right. The cast is brilliant.
Even the small Michael Caine.
Michael Caine for the 3 minutes he's in the movie.
Marianne Cotillard, which is, it might be the last movie that I've actually enjoyed her tremendously in.
I always
But she's
forget how
great.
much you hold grudges against actors and actresses.
I don't hold a grudge. Is that
Anne
nope.
Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway. that
So-
was just bad.
Our next topic of discussion. There is a point in the film where they get introduced to Yusuf's what is essentially like the imagery evokes an old opium den, where people are lucid dreaming or in this collective dream in this basement off of Yusuf's own special formula. Mm-hmm. So to test it out, Cobb hooks himself up. And then when he comes out, goes into the bathroom to spin his top. The top falls off. Like he's so flustered that he tries to spin it and it ends up falling off the surface. Saito comes in and interrupts him, so he picks it up. You never actually see him spin that thing proper. So my question to you is everything that happens after that just a product? And I know, Chris, you alluded to this in the text that you sent me.
Yeah, I meant the final one, but yeah, this one's a good one too.
Yeah, I mean, there's the question of how much of this film is presented as we are told it is, which is the 4 layers of the dream state with everything that's happening on the plane being the real world and the ending taking place in the real world, which has been up for debate for the last 11 years. Or basically, at what point, if it is all a dream, did the dream start? And I noticed this time the reason I bring up the opium den imagery and all of that is that's where I picked it out. Like, oh, if this is starting anywhere, this is where it would be. Stan, what do you think?
I think it's an interesting point because we don't see at the end if the top actually falls or not. It appears that it's getting to a point where it's going to topple, but then it goes to a blackout to end the movie. So the idea that maybe Christopher Nolan was aware of his own stuff early enough. I did that earlier, and we don't know if he actually spun the top correctly. So I'm going to end it this way. And so it could still be the dream, and that top isn't going to stop spinning, but we don't know. And I think it's a good setup for the ambiguity for the ending. So, because I had forgotten about that, because when I rewatched it, I had already started it a few weeks before I finished watching it. So I'd forgotten about the beginning of and how that's set up. But yeah, that's a really interesting point. And sets up a lot of the ambiguity that's left at the end. So I enjoy that.
Chris, what are your thoughts?
I think, honestly, I can argue the opposite way. I think it's less ambiguous than you think. And I think, because Nolan has a way of just, he shows you exactly what's going on. Mm-hmm. He usually doesn't outright trick you. Maybe he'll recontextualize something later.
Right.
But I think it's important to point out, every time he was in the dream and you saw the top spinning in a dream, it always spun perfectly every time. Mm-hmm. It held a tight circle. It never wavered. And whenever it was spun, you never fucked it up. So him fucking up and spinning the top I feel is a good indication that it was real.
Okay.
Good.
And at the end, I think Nolan pushes the ambiguity because he makes it seem when Cobb is exiting and going to his home, makes everything seem very dreamlike. There's a lot of out of focus. There's like a hazy kind of feeling to it. Everyone glances at him on his way out, but when he spins the top, again, it's not a tight circle. You see it wobble early on, and even though it cuts before whether or not it falls.
Right.
It's about to. You see it start taking a wider arc and start tipping in the middle of it. And Nolan made sure to show you every time when it was in a dream, it spun perfect.
Absolutely agree. And I think that's the optimism.
And I think that is the optimism in me, maybe.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say is, the rare times for me where hope springs eternal. I like to think of this movie as having an optimistic ending.
Me too.
Because the idea that he was in a dream the entire time would have been the ultimate downer ending.
And Nolan isn't one to just make a downer ending.
Right.
From everything we've watched, in some form or another, things kind of end happily for the people Nolan feels it should end happily for.
Yeah.
And so I think it does. I think they do it.
All right. So our next topic.
Well, before we jump into the next topic, though, speaking of Cobb, if you were taking bets, like in the hour, basically you get an hour setup to a 90-minute heist movie, reverse heist, whatever. And in the hour, they make it clear that as they're setting this up, Cobb's compromised. So at some point, Cobb's problems are going to burst into the dream and make it, and you're sitting there going, okay, so what dramatic moment is it going to happen? If you're taking bets on when the problems are going to start, where do you place that moment happening? Do you have literally within the first 5 minutes of things happening when that freight train bursts down the middle of New York?
It's a really great,
and that was hilarious.
It's a really great and surprising moment that just... things have been set in action.
The
but
race
idea
against time
just,
is even more of a race against time.
Literally. Yep.
And that was when I sent topics to you. That was what I meant by Christopher Nolan's timing versus his pacing. Yeah. Because I'm not going to lie, some of this was not a lot, just some of it, some of the action scenes were put on like times 2. Yeah. I sped through a little bit of it because getting to the next important part of the plot, he likes his pacing.
Well, I feel like it's perfectly visually exemplified by all the cutaway shots to the van still falling.
Yeah. It's like his pacing I have issues with, but his timing for when things happen is superb.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, we already sort of touched on this, so I feel like this won't be a long discussion, but at some point in the movie, I wrote down 3 words: so much exposition. Yeah. And it is all, I think, perfectly necessary given the concept of this film. And Christopher Nolan has always been great. Katie and I talk about this all the time. When you watch a Christopher Nolan movie, you need to sit down and just be prepared to get on board. There's not a lot of hand-holding in a Nolan film. Just accept whatever is in front of you and try to keep up. So like I said about Elliot Page having the unenviable position of having exposition thrown at them and then having to also deliver exposition, I feel like in the hands of a lesser director, none of that would have worked. Like, we would be talking about how great the action scenes were and literally nothing else.
And she's so sincere. Thank you. They're so sincere about what they deliver. So, I think that helps a lot. Their sincerity is just amazing. You know? And I think that's what helps that go through.
Chris, thoughts on the sheer amount of exposition?
I think you're right. That a lot of times the difference between a good version of what we saw and a bad version of that is how they're able to feed you the plot. Mm-hmm. And like I said, talking about when with Cobb's problems bursting in, you have basically an hour of setup where they're preparing this mission, and through it, it's especially helpful that as they're talking, you're getting the bits and pieces of, okay, what this is, how it's being used, why they're doing it, what the applications are, how they're going to be able to do what they do. And they do a marvelous way of setting it up and helpfully reminding you.
It's very much like if somebody were to make a sci-fi James Bond film.
Yeah, he knows. Christopher Nolan is good at knowing when to give you the next important fact you need to know about it.
Yeah, instead of just front loading you with everything, and just
not dropping too much, but enough that you connect the pieces and you're like, oh, okay, so I get it now, and you don't feel in any way negatively about how you've been given the information, because there's plenty of times where sometimes they'll drop a plot point in a movie or they'll do it in such a way where it's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's like now it basically feels like they're adding a provision or a special rule in there for how this works so that they can get away with it.
Yeah. Lazy writing.
Right.
Basically. Yeah.
And they're not charismatic, to basically wink at the camera and go, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Well, the last note that I wrote down, and then we'll get into yours, Chris,
Sure.
that you sent us. At one point, I just wrote down the audacity of this movie. And then when I sent it out, I had to add an addendum, and I mean that in a good way. Again, like in the hands of a lesser director, so much of this film should not work. Mm-hmm. The fact that we have like concurring fight scenes on wherever the hell that snowy mountain was with a bunch of people in Jeeps that have treads on them and Tom Hardy on a jet ski. That literally is a
James Bond scene, you're right.
Yeah. I read about it. I can't remember which movie. It was a James Bond film that inspired it, according to Nolan.
Was it View to a Kill? Because they have the opening
Yes, I think, yeah.
It's the opening ski scene. He didn't use California Girls, though.
Well, that is happening concurrent to the whole Joseph Gordon-Levitt hallway thing, in which he is in a fist fight with a bunch of guys in zero gravity, while in another level there is like the classic Rainy City street chase going on. All of it,
which is a pee joke.
Yes.
Yeah, that's. Yes.
Because Yusuf drank too much before going under.
Yes, I love that. That's the first thing you're told when you get in there.
Could have went to the bathroom.
Stan and I ended up having to Google this yesterday because we were sitting there trying to think of who was in charge of every level. Yeah, so because there's one person whose job it is to maintain the level of the dream that you're on.
So Yusuf was level 1.
Yeah, and when I ended up having to look it up because we were debating it, and then I was like, oh, right, of course it was Yusuf because it was raining because he had to pee. Yeah, level 1 is Yusuf, level 2 was Arthur, level 3 was Eames,
yes,
and Limbo was Cobb.
Yeah.
Just the fucking audacity of Christopher Nolan to make all of this happen and to make it work is astounding to me.
He doesn't answer that question, though. When they get back to the real world or they wake up back in the plane, did Yusuf pee in his pants?
I was thinking that was going to be part of it. No, I think he was able to hold it. But
with all the stuff that happens in the dream, he gets rammed, he gets shot at, and so it's like all this stuff that would have, and then he falls into the river.
I'll tell you what, it's been a trigger for me to wake up and have to go to the bathroom, right. And I've seen other people talk about it too. Usually, if you dream and a toilet shows up,
it's happening.
Then you have to get up because you're about to go.
Okay.
Because I've seen other people talk about it too. It's happened to me as well, where suddenly your mind snaps to and realizes, oh shit, I'm about to pee myself.
Well, and I suppose it also depends on just how good the first class service on this airline is. Because there is that one air hostess who...
Because she is actually doing the stuff, right?
The one person they
catheter there or something.
I didn't check to see if Yusuf was wearing a different pair of pants when he got there.
Right.
How awkward would it be if her job is there not to give them champagne and their in-flight meals or whatever.
Clean them up.
She's looking at all of them, making sure their vitals are right, making sure the little suitcase machine is working, and then all of a sudden she just hears something and looks over, and Yusuf is pissing his pants.
Well, to be honest, in a practical sense, based on how heavy they were going to be under and what they were going to be experiencing, I might have worn a diaper.
I mean...
And maybe they are.
Exactly. They're so well prepared for everything else. Everybody except poor Robert Fisher.
Yeah.
Like, if he pees himself, that's just going to be very awkward when he wakes up. I just love the sheer insanity of this film.
I will say somewhere in a parallel universe, based on what I've seen so far and probably based on the rest that we'll see, Christopher Nolan is... in a parallel universe, living in Japan as the foremost non-Japanese anime maker, because the genre. I mean, that genre is very broad, but in Japan they use anime for everything from serious drama to wacky comedy and everything in between. And his works would just so easily translate to either just standalone movies or anime series, because that's what his concepts are.
Yeah. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about one of the most mimetic things to come out in the last 15 years, which is Brom.
Yes.
You could not go anywhere after the trailer for this movie came out without hearing that sound effect punctuating everything.
Is that where it started?
Yeah, because it's the kick, it's the music.
That's
playing.
right. That's right.
And it permeated the media for this movie. Stan, thoughts about the sheer audacity of the things that we witnessed?
We had talked about this earlier. It's like that the audacity, the sheer audacity, is what Nolan has perfected since Memento, in the sense that he's using it as his way to dump exposition if he needs to, and he just uses the best moments and makes the moments so big and so audacious that when he decides to drop some exposition on you, it's part of the audacity. So It's like the idea that he's perfecting that as he's going along, and Inception's the first moment where we see that at its peak. His use of that bigness, even if it's a small moment, but in the sense to make the epicness and the scale of the film even more than it should be. I think Inception is where he finally made, that's it, boom. And everything, and leading up to Tenet, which we'll get to later, but the idea that without Inception, I don't think Tenet can happen, because Tenet is literally
it's like a spiritual successor to this film.
Exactly.
Yeah. Chris, thoughts about the audacity of Inception?
I mean, his thoughts about movie making seem to be fortune favors the bold. So,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. He had gained enough clout in Hollywood to basically be given free reign over this movie and as much money, it seems like, as he wanted to make it happen. And god damn if he didn't make it happen. So Chris, you sent us a couple of notes, the first of which we sort of...
I think the first couple we might have.
Did Cobb wake up at the end?
Yeah, we argued. Yeah, the first two I think we covered. I think he did.
Stan...
I agree. I think he did too.
Yeah, the hopeless romantic in me wants to think that he finally put aside his past with Maul. The job was completed. He finally got to go home. Saito...
And he could wait. He could wait for the kids to turn around and actually face him.
Yeah, he saw the kids, and I think Nolan is also, I think, a romantic in that sense, because as evidence following in Dark Knight Rises, he's not one to jerk you around and make you see these people struggle and then fail.
And then his father-in-law, played by Michael Caine, who invented
Mike Cocaine,
who is not in any of the dreams, is there when he gets home to. He's taking care of the kids, so the idea that he invented the Inception process, it's like he's there. So.
And I mean, Mike Cocaine himself kind of took the piss out of it by telling, during an interview or something, he just flat out told an interviewer, every scene that I'm in takes place in the real world.
Right. And also, on top of that, you'll notice every other time Cobb spun it, even when he failed, he's staring religiously at it, and at that point, even if it's not exactly the real world, he's accepted where he is. He's gone. He's at very least at peace with himself.
Yeah,
because he doesn't even watch that top spin.
Yeah, and then I really love the way you worded this last one.
Yeah,
Nolan's love of extraordinary sci-fi concepts applied in mundane ways. Like dream hacking for corporate espionage, duplication machines for being better at magic.
That's what it was. And that's what made me think of the anime connection, because that's how the anime takes a fantastic concept. They with laser focus, they draw it down to a very small singular thing and explore it.
And now I just want to think of other ways you could take like extraordinary concepts and apply it to mundane ways. Like a fully sentient artificial AI whose entire job is to be a stopwatch.
Kind of.
You come home and it's like, Mr. Hensley, would you like anything timed for you tonight? You know what? I'm good. I don't need to time anything.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Yeah. I'll see you in 10 hours. I'm going to sleep in.
It's your alarm clock.
It kind of get away with it in The Prestige because...
Agree to disagree.
Kind of, in that it wasn't like widely known that the thing was a duplicator.
Right.
That Tesla made him a duplicator.
A cloning machine.
Yeah. I mean, just a straight up cloning machine.
Let's not veer back. I got an earful from our dear friend and listener Robert Bradford about my thoughts and opinions on.
I'll
the
argue with
Prestige.
him. Bring him on here. I will argue.
Well,
Anyway.
and I damn near in our only like sequel follow-up episode, I almost invited Robert on here to discuss the Prestige, like just me and him, making
man.
it to a teeny talk, which probably wouldn't have been that teeny.
But this one seems like it's gotten out from the military. This isn't known in the wider world. And like the first thing you hear about is like they did this for a thing called COBOL engineering, and it's just like, what is this? What else is this being used for? Like, this is like the perfect therapy tool. I hope it's being at least used in that field, since apparently it's just being widely done within the world, or at least it's known. And also, how terrifying is it to think, if you are someone of any importance or in a field of any importance, I'd be severely worried about sleeping around anyone I don't know.
And you brought it up
Or in
earlier,
public.
just the amount of training it'll take to be able to gauge the amount of the serum or the formula that each person is given, and who sets it up, and
I
so
think in general it seems like it's safe to do. But I think the Inception thing was different because it involved a sedative.
right.
That made it more dangerous.
Yeah.
But but yeah, you're right. I mean, it's like there's a chance you can just fuck up the regular version.
Exactly, because Yusuf has to be a major, at least some kind of high chemistry, chemical engineer type, to be able to consistently,
'Cause
not
otherwise,
just like one at a time.
You
but-
are essentially putting yourself to sleep.
exactly.
His secret is that it's secretly his formula is just warm milk.
Right.
I mean, that'll put you right out. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
but yeah, it's weird to think about. It's like this world-changing, world-shaking thing for corporate espionage.
Well, when Cobb tells Ariadne about, I'm just doing experiments. He's getting himself deeper and deeper into his own self. So that's why he's doing things on his own. And it's like, he doesn't necessarily know the mechanics or the makeup or the chemistry that he needs. He's doing experiments. So when does he
Should have been the biggest red
overdose?
flag.
Exactly. When does
Because
he
you don't
overdose?
experiment
When
on
he
yourself like that.
Yeah, and realistically,
causes brain damage, the limbo thing,
well, yeah, I mean, Arthur, after their last mission together at the beginning of the movie, Arthur should have been like, "Listen, we've been friends for a long time. You're like a brother to me. I love you. I'm not fucking doing this with you again until you've had a lot of therapy.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
dead wife shot me in the kneecap."
And then Tom Hardy's character has the same moment. I forgot what section of the dream, or I think it was right after the van, or right before the van. I forgot, but he's like, I'm not doing it anymore.
Right.
done.
He's ready to pull out. Yeah. In a lot of ways, I said this is kind of like, or Tenet was kind of like a spiritual successor to Inception. But I also feel like Inception is a spiritual successor itself to The Matrix, because both of these are paranoia fuel, the movie.
Oh, yeah.
With The Matrix, it was like, well, fuck, what if we all are hooked up to a giant computer and everything around us is just a very complex simulation and none of us have lived in the real world at all? Now Inception comes along and it's like, well, fuck, what if I'm hooked up to a dream machine?
Well, actually, they sort of addressed this, where they
I think last year we were.
they talk about how Eames, the guy Cillian Murphy plays,
Fisher?
Fisher.
Eames is
Okay. Fisher has been trained mentally in order to counteract people trying to do that to him.
Yeah.
That means it's widely known in the world to happen.
Imagine that conversation where, like, you get promoted yay, I'm the head of the company. I get my own private cell phone. I have my own Mercedes now. I have a key card to the building, and I have to take 8 hours of dream security. Excuse me, what is
Dream mercenaries.
What is dream security training?
You get
you have to
big
come
old
in on a
freight train.
Saturday so that people can train you how to populate your brain with mercenaries.
So that they can fight off anyone trying to get inside your head and steal secrets from you. What?
Do people actually do that? Oh, more than you think. It happens all the time.
Oh, by the way, it's happening right now. What?
What?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I fucking love this film. I sort of accidentally, this is not something I set out to do, but I kind of end up accidentally watching this movie like at least once a year. Yeah. Just because I will be flipping through things and I'll be like, ooh, Inception. I haven't watched that in, about 11 months. I love it. Stan, did you have any final thoughts about Inception before we start wrapping up?
Again, it's kind of, when you see, well, it's like for me with Tarantino and seeing Kill Bill. Mm-hmm. Boom. Okay, that's what he's been working up to, and then his jump into the next phase of his movie making. I think Inception is the same way for Nolan. I think, even though he has his Batman films going on, and then Dark Knight Rises comes next after this, but the idea that that's the Nolan we've been building up to, and then the stuff after this just gets more and more interesting. Even his weaker films later are still the growth of the perfected Nolan, and I think Inception's really great in that sense.
I'm looking at the time code for this episode, and we've only been talking about this movie for 50 minutes, which, as I was trying to talk to Stan about yesterday, I had a hard time coming up with discussions for this film because as complex as this plot is, it's still relatively straightforward.
Yeah, it flows very easily.
Yeah, even if you don't completely understand the dream sharing mechanics, which, good luck trying to do that anyway, 100%. It's still a very straightforward story. Now, the same cannot be said about Interstellar, which we're going to be discussing next, a film that I have seen once, did not understand, and we're going to see if I get it any better this next time.
I have two final thoughts. One, I like the idea of when the mind figures out there's an intruder, that every part of the dream turns on you, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
And two, those sound problems, those sound mixing issues are getting worse.
See, I did not think it was as bad with this one.
Okay, well, it wasn't as bad because there wasn't a lot of music behind it, but there were parts where it's like I had the captions on from the get-go, and I'm glad I did because they just start talking really softly.
Oh yeah, I did notice that for sure.
And it's like, I'm glad I can read that because I couldn't fucking hear it.
I miss some of Saito's stuff for that.
And I don't.
Too.
And I
I agree. A lot of Saito's lines were kind of lost in the mix.
And Ken, we got to say, Ken Watanabe is great. Just let me tell you.
Yeah, but I mean, he did that with almost every character at some point, and it's like I was like, I live alone. I don't watch movies quietly. I don't have to, but I keep the captions on for him anyway because I have to.
Yeah, now see, at least it felt like an effort was made to mix the audio on this one, unlike The Prestige and unlike Interstellar.
Oh
and
yeah, they had to put notices in theaters for Interstellar. It's like, that's the way the movie's mixed. We can't turn it up.
It's supposed to sound like that.
Yeah.
So this is probably going to be our last podcast here in my downtown Rock Hill office. Pretty soon we're going to be packing up and moving digs to the future Long Walk Studios / if you ask David, Two Dogs Hayes, Kayfabe Outpost 1.
Fort Kickass, yes.
Yeah, Fort Kickass. I like that better. We're going to throw both of those out. So in the meantime, it's going to be about another month before another podcast comes out on Long Walk Podcasts. So Stan, if people want to reach out to you online, I'm going to regret asking you this. Where can they find you at?
Twitter.
Can they?
And what's your Twitter handle, Stan?
It's Twitter handle Stan.
I'm looking it up.
No, I'm gonna go and fucking register that for you. Like as soon as this is done, and you're gonna start getting.
I'm
all
still
kinds
waiting
of
for their Tinder
notifications.
account, man.
Wait, that's too long to be a Twitter handle. You've got like 15 characters.
What?
Chris, how about you? If people want to reach out to you online or follow you online, where can they do that at?
Well, you can find me in the pit that is Twitter at ChrisTheOK, because I have an actual Twitter handle. That's OKAY. I mean, it'll still be up when Facebook goes out again.
All right, well, if you want to follow me online, the best place to do that is going to be on Instagram at DB Hensley. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us, or you can search for Long Walk Productions and Long Walk Podcasts on Facebook. To see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming, you can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show or any of the shows on the Long Walk Podcast Network, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you are listening on.
Peace out.
Dave, the top's still spinning. Dave, the top is still spinning.